already seen it. I'm not even going to do it now. I'm just... Anyway, hello everybody. Today I am reviewing the sequel to the Today I'm reviewing the critically acclaimed smash hit by critics one by one, Norm of the North 2, Keys to the Kingdom, which is the sequel to the beloved, cherished animated classic from 3 years ago, Norm of the North 2. Yeah, it's about as good as it sounds. So the plot is fake Rob Schneider derp because real Rob Schneider said derp to this. In all seriousness, the biggest problem with this movie, other than it existing, is the fact that they literally just stitched two movies together. They stitched them one. Now, if you remember, a little bit before Norm of the North's terrible theatrical release, they announced two sequels, Back to the City and Arctic All-Stars, and they said that they were going to do the Alpha and Omega route and making them 45 minutes and direct to DVD. However, they wanted to make this a limited theatrical release, so they decided to stitch them together. Because if there's any animation studio that we love, and Lionsgate, who doesn't love stuff like Happily Ever After 2 and 1, the Alpha and Omega Cinematic Universe, and the wildlife, I can't wait for Rock Dog 2 and 3, and I didn't even see the first one. And of course, we've already gotten Norm 3 and 4. Shoot me now, Lionsgate. The story is just, okay, there are two separate parts of this direct-to-DVD movie that they just stitched. The first one is where Back to the City is what they gave the title Keys to the Kingdom. They stitched these two together. They basically, the first one is about where Norm goes back to the city because he got the key to become the king of the kingdom with his son and the minion ripoff, the Lemmings. And then he gets framed for doing it. And then the second story, when they get back to the Arctic with no explanation, they decided to do a generic sports story. And people complained about how Early Man just randomly turned into a sports movie. Early Man was a good movie. And I really would rather watch that than this. Anyway, the stories are just so predictable. Not to mention the stereotypes in both stories, which I'll get to later. The story is just so dull and bland and predictable, and just there's so many parts where it's just where you just want to turn off the TV so badly. I haven't regretted watching a movie for my job. I don't even regret watching Teen Titans Go that much. But, man, I regret. Last time this is when Duck Duck Goose came out. And I will be including this on my ranking since I included that. Anyway, the animation is terrible. No dip. It's more easy to get behind since it was just a limited theatrical release and I wasn't watching it in a theater. Although I didn't even see the first one in a theater. I know it still got released in theaters, and if it didn't get the apparent theatrical release, still got a theatrical release in Romania. But if I can be honest, if you want to have a bad movie night with friends, this is one of the best movies you can make fun of. I was honestly laughing at points of how laughably bad the animation is. It's just so funny how... I wonder how much they spent on this movie. Probably like $1. Even then, that sounds too generous. Anyway, the characters are bland. Norm, the bland protagonist, he's just annoying and stupid. The new voice actor, I'll get to the voices later, but he just is so dumb and he just doesn't have anything about him. The Lemmings, though, aka, if you know, the Minions have been ripped off several times. The Raving Rabbits, well, the Rave with the little gibberish talking characters, or like the one with multiple that are just looks the same. There's the Raving Rabbits for the Rayman games, the Minions from Despicable Me, the Goblins from Strange Magic, and one of the worst examples, the Lemmings. Thankfully, they're not in this one as much as they were the first time, but when they are, they still make annoying and stupid jokes. Did you see the jaw drop in the movie? Did you? Anyway, there's this Kung Fu rabbit that owns a bank, you know, like Kung Fu Panda and Ninjago and Nut Job 2 where there's a Kung Fu animals. Yeah. The rabbit is just... he has nothing. He is the most forgettable character in the movie, and he just shows up right out of nowhere. Speaking of bland characters, Norm's son is just there. There's nothing about him. The end. And also, Norm had children! Who would be willing to give him children? Who would be willing to marry him? Let's get... who the love interest is back for like 6 lines. In the first one she had like 4, so they gave her 2 extra lines. Anyway, the daughters of the first 2 are back and still bland as ever. They do the Ice Age Nut Job route and Sherlock Gnomes route, where those sequels just bring back characters. And I forgot to mention the Goons in the Gnome movie, Romeo and Juliet 2. Those are also Minion rip-offs. The second one, I wouldn't say it's the first one, but just... they try to bring back the actor and Norm's family, but they're just there because they were there in the frickin' first movie. And then there are the stereotypes I mentioned. There's this old lady who yells, "Don't worry, Norm, just imagine everyone naked." An old lady stereotype. Not only that, in the hockey story, we got Russian stereotypes. Overall, I am going to count this in my ranking for the animated films of 2019, since I did count Duck Duck Goose. But this was just insufferable to get through. It's technically not as insulting as the first movie, since this didn't get 2,000 feeders and only got like a few, and plus an international theatrical release. But it should have gotten none. This is worse than the first movie technically, but insulting for animation fans. this is technically less insulting because this didn't get a wide release, but it is worse than the first one. Norm of the North, Keys to the Kingdom is derp to derp. And before I end, Rob Schneider didn't come back. If I could give the first movie just the smidge of credit, Rob Schneider and Heather Graham were not the worst actors ever for the roles. This is the opposite. They are terrible. They get replaced because they said no. None of the actors come back except for the actor of the kid. And that's the kid. Anyway, Norm of the North 2 is one of the worst animated films of all time that will go down with Strange Magic, Legends of Oz, Dorothy's Return, Dougal, Space Chimps 2, Food Fight, The Emoji Movie, Norm of the North, and Space Chimps 2. That is why I'm going to give Norm of the North, if I would give zeros, this would be a 0, but a 1 out of 10. So, how much did you hate Norm of the North 2? Do you hate it, or do you even more hate it than I did? Tell me down in the comments, and I'll see you guys next time. Now I better hide before they make me review another one.